Over the last 25 years, Miller has served as a common ground for adventurous artists and audiences who aren't afraid to push the envelope. Miller Theatre was established as Columbia University's professional performing arts presenter in 1988. This venue itself was built as Macmillan Academic Theatre in the 1920s, and so there were performances that took place here, but there were also lectures and seminars. There were poetry readings by Dylan Thomas and T.S. Eliot.
I do have a memory of an event that took place on this campus when I was a college student in the 50s, and it was the first concert of electronic music. And so I did come to this concert, and not really being that much interested in electronic music, but I remember enjoying it tremendously and feeling that I was witnessing history.
The theater was completely remodeled in about 1988, I guess. Before, there were doors all around the theater, and you could enter from the College Walk, and people would come in and the doors would crash during a concert and so forth. It was a very open place, and which sounds nice, but actually acoustically it was miserable. Then of course George Steele started the portrait series and brought a lot of other new music here. Under Melissa Smay, the theater's thriving, and it's one of the great places for adventuresome programming in New York.
Today we're a venue for a wide range of performances. There are the events in contemporary music and early music, jazz, dance, opera. But we're also a campus venue. We're one of, if the only venue of its kind on the Columbia campus. So the Columbia University Orchestra has its performances here. A range of events produced by faculty and departments and centers from across the university.
So our first impressions of Miller Theatre was just being astounded that we had such a gem in our immediate neighborhood. You know, we are both interested, my husband and I are both interested in early music and also in new music, 20th century music. And it was just amazing to find out that it exactly was the program that Miller Theatre was providing us with.
So I have many memories at Miller Theatre. My first one was actually as an undergraduate. This was the place where I had my first composition performed ever as an undergraduate composer. So it was very exciting. It was kind of sitting over there, and Mario Davidovsky and Jack Beeson were in the audience, and I was studying with Mario at the time. And so I have a very fond and nerve-wracking first memory of Miller Theatre.
I mean, there's all sorts of music that you pretty much wouldn't hear anywhere else. I'm thinking of a concert, it was a Miller concert, that was the recorder, that, you know, with 8-foot-tall recorders and some little Nightingale-type recorders that are about that size, that cricket-sized.
One of the extraordinary things that Miller put on was this outdoor performance in Morningside Park. Now, when we were undergraduates and graduate students, Morningside Park was not a place where you would stroll or sit and have a picnic. It was considered very rundown, very dangerous. And we had really not quite understood to what extent it had been brought back.
There were people there on their picnic blankets, you know, sort of tourists that had flown in from all over the place, aficionados, but also people who just happened to, you know, sort of chance on the park, and were totally blown away by this. I heard several people talk about this as the Christo of the music event.
One of my first times at Miller was the Lou Reed composed a portrait of metal machine music, and I had no idea what to expect. But there were innumerable people on the stage. And then they were handing out earplugs. So I thought, well, this is going to be something that I've never experienced before. And I hate loud music. So I thought, oh no, this is going to be horrible. Well, it was one of the great experiences of my life, I think. It was like this enormous wall of sound. I had never experienced sound become so physical and material as it did in that event. And I think everyone who was there had the same experience. It was almost levitating. I just felt like we almost all levitated. I mean, it could have killed us, but it was really fantastic.
I do remember the first time I played at Miller was doing the Zorn Violin Concerto, John Zorn's Violin Concerto, Conte de Fe. And And then I remembered I called up Miller the following day, and I had this idea of doing all kind of 20th century New York composers.
Everyone in the business knows who has played at Miller Theater. So the name alone, within that world of music, has this enormous power and resonance.
Miller Theater with the Portrait series have always been, you know, the high points of what's happening in music, and the place to always hear what's happening outside of New York as well.
People take notice. It's a very important series in the city, and everyone's looking to see what Miller's doing this year, and the composers that Miller is putting in their portrait. Because the composers that aren't necessarily known as much, but I think people see that and say, well, I don't know this composer, but we should check it out because Miller is interested in this.
All of this brings incredible luster to the campus and to Columbia. So 25 years of this amazing history, and all of these amazing artists, the litany of who has come through here and what they did here, and some of it for the very first time that they've ever done it from all over the world. That's what makes Miller so extraordinary, and what's a gift really to the students on campus. There are just very few places that work with artists in any form that really understand what risk is and are willing to take that risk. The presenters aren't always willing to take risks with artists. Their reputation is at stake. They may not want to try something for the first time. They want other people to say, this is fantastic, before they are willing to put it on the stage.
I love the fact that Miller took chances, and over the years, what I've really loved about working with Miller is that any kind of crazy idea I might have, it's always been welcome, and it's really, Miller's become a home for me.
Being a part of the Miller Theater Early Music Series is special for us, for New York Polyphony, because we are part of the next generation of early music artists carrying on after groups like the Tallis Scholars and the Orlando Consort, who are still going on, but they're in their 40th and 25th years respectively, and we're in our 7th. So it's great to be invited by Melissa, because these are groups that we've modeled ourselves upon. These are the people who are the standard bearers that we are now responsible with continuing the tradition and maybe adding our own voice. So that's what's really special for us, is to be a part of something that's a really long-standing tradition, but still reinventing itself.
I'm committed to offering a dedicated home and a nurturing environment for the artists and ensembles that we work with. It's important that we're able to support their careers and support their vision for what the performance should be. And over the years, we've had the privilege of working with a number of ensembles who've gone on to really major careers and exciting achievements.
It's almost impossible to single out a particular experience there, because they've all been so tremendous for us as an ensemble. From the very first one, which involved a portrait in, I believe it was 2002-2003 season, by Huang Ro, who was one of our founding members and who was essentially a child then. We were all children. And Miller Theater gave ICE our very first major performance in New York. And it was a pivotal moment for us. I mean, the idea that we could get up on stage and be paid to play new music by a young composer in a big theater with an audience that had been cultivated and that was educated and that was eager and curious about discovering new things. It was a dream for us, and ever since then, you know, our organizational relationship and also personal relationship with all of the incredible folks who run Miller Theater has grown and has in many ways shaped who we are as an ensemble and put us on the map in New York in the early days in a way that I really can't imagine ICE's history without.
I guess with all of the work that I do is I want to work with people that are having a good time doing this. And that's the kind of passion, kind of feeling of a true believer that is very important in a musical experience. We have a relationship that goes back a decade. Your support means so much to me, and in a way, this is my house, this is my home in New York. If I want to do classical work, this is where I've been doing it. This is where I want to do it.
Every time I performed at the Miller, I felt the same way from the start to finish. I feel good about it when I leave. Whether it's an audience member or someone that's employed by the Miller Theater, it's always just it has always been a great experience. I think that you all are doing something right over there, because what we do, we're in the people business, and you know, in terms of making music, in terms of just trying to reach folk.
Both the audiences that come here as well as everybody who works here has embraced this, you know, really super creative way of looking at things, and pushing the envelope in some ways. And you know, as somebody in the arts and as people in the arts, that's, in a way, that's our job, not to live with fear and to live fearlessly. And even if something terrifies you, you know, to still, you know, step into that fire